Let's now get more insight on how Wall Street responded to this rather surprising comments from U.S. Fed Chair Janet Yellen's press conference. We have Angela Moon, senior correspondent at Thomson Reuters in New York, connecting with us live to give us an exclusive look on how Wall Street took the news. Angela, you must have firsthand experience, if you will, on market reaction to the presser from Janet Yellen. We know the market sold off on this initially, but tell us in detail how the atmosphere was, how the traders and investors took the news.
Well, good afternoon there, Connyoung. I have to say today's presser was one of the most unexpected events from the U.S. Federal Reserve. The statement from the central bank's latest policy meeting was in line with market expectations. However, the real surprise came from Janet Yellen's presser, which was aired about half an hour after the release of the statement. Yellen said the central bank could start to raise interest rates around 6 months after its current asset purchase program ends. She said the bond purchases would probably end in the fall, which means a rate reduction 6 months later would move up the timetable for the Fed's first rate hike, which many market participants had been expecting in the second half of 2015.
Now, Angela, that does seem like something that would take the market by a bit of a surprise. What are analysts saying on the floor there?
Well, several analysts are wondering whether her answer was an unintended slip, given the deliberately vague language of the Fed's statement. But whether it is or it isn't, the reaction in financial markets was swift and sharp as prices for U.S. stocks and government bonds added to earlier losses triggered by fresh Fed forecasts that showed policymakers are inclined to raise rates a bit more aggressively than they had been just a few months ago. Most of the top Wall Street economists, however, continue to see the first rate hike in the second half of 2016. This is according to a Reuters poll. So it's definitely a mixed, sort of divided picture here.
Now, Angela, going back a step a little bit, I realize this was Janet Yellen's first press briefing as the chair of the Federal Reserve, and I think she more or less showed that the Fed under her would be a little bit different from how it was run by Ben Bernanke. Now, how is it being evaluated by the investors there?
You're absolutely right. This marks the first press conference for Janet Yellen, who is also the first female chair of the Federal Reserve. The Fed holds these press conferences regularly to let the public know how the nation's central bank is delivering on its two major tasks, which are, number one, lowering the unemployment rate so that nearly all Americans have jobs, and number two, controlling inflation to make sure you're basically not paying too much at the supermarket. It was historic enough to see a woman deliver the official diagnosis on the U.S. economy. Yet Yellen's first policy statement was historic for another major reason, which is that she showed that she's running a very different kind of Federal Reserve than the one Ben Bernanke ran before. Unlike Bernanke, who often catered to Wall Street's fears, this new Federal Reserve appears to be reluctant to play the usual game. It was clear that under her rules, the Fed is stepping away from its reputation as a bunch of economists eager to please traders on trading floors. The best example came when Yellen wiped away one lazy way of measuring the economy's health. The Fed, under Bernanke, promised that when the unemployment rate hits 6.5%, the central bank would raise interest rates. This was called quantitative guidance, and it fed Wall Street's fetish for largely made-up numbers. But Yellen basically shut down the argument today, saying that the Fed will take into account a wide range of information, including measures of the labor market conditions, indicators of inflation pressures, and inflation expectations, and readings on financial developments, giving a new definition to what qualifies as, quote, quantitative guidance.
So basically no more slacking off under Janet Yellen. All right, Angela Moon, senior Wall Street correspondent at Thomson Reuters, New York. Thank you, Angela, for joining us to deliver us the very latest on Wall Street.